and I'm working on a couple of projects. So, I mean, what I have found is that, these guys and me included, we're in the military. We're just busy all the time in there, busy all the time, and sometimes it's just busy work to stay busy. But most of the time it was very important work. And out here, you've got to find a purpose. When you find that purpose and you stay engaged in it, what you'll find is that you will be, you'll deal with the post-traumatic stress disorder issues much, much, much more effectively than if you just sort of, lay around and do nothing. I mean, there's no such thing as retirement, as Greg will tell you. I mean, and as anybody else that's out here, retirement is, it's fictional. My wife, uh, although tells me all the time, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. We need to go and travel and see things. And I explained to her, I'm like, I'm just too busy. So they would probably say that I am busy. And my children, and my daughter's 12 years old, and she's doing a project for Veterans Day. And contrary to popular belief, you can walk in my house and you wouldn't even know, other than knowing me and maybe a few pictures, that I even served in the military. I used to have one of those I love me walls, and now I've transitioned all that stuff to my office downtown. But uh, and it hit me. I'm like, my daughter sends me a message saying, I'm doing a project, and Dad, I don't even know, was you in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force? Because we just don't sit around and talk about it. And now I feel bad about that. And I feel bad about that because, I'm not ashamed of my service. Most certainly not. I did 22 years and started out as an enlisted guy. I was a private, and then I worked my way up to, a platoon sergeant, which is, I was a senior non-commissioned officer, and then I became an officer. I got a direct commission, became a second lieutenant, and ended up retiring as a captain. And I can tell you that in those years, I got to see a lot of things, do a lot of things, but ultimately, I think that what I did was my duty in all things that I do. So we're coming up on Veterans Day here in the U.S., and my daughter, who's 12 years old, has very few ideas about, what I did. And not to mention her brothers. She has two brothers, and both of them deployed overseas and were in the war. Kyle, her oldest brother, he was over in Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates, and actually went to Afghanistan. So he was part of the Afghanistan Operation Enduring Freedom. And my other son, James, he was over in Kuwait and Syria and Iraq. And so he was in an operation called Spartan Shield. And so as I'm trying to explain this to my daughter, and we're talking about secrets, it hit me. My kids, there's other people probably at that school that know more about their dad than they do. And I don't know why I've never really, made it a topic of conversation. Maybe it was because there was so much violence. My older kids, they all knew because they lived through it. They saw me go through in and out of the hospital for over a year and a half, going through the VA, going through that whole transition process where, I battled a little alcoholism there for a while. Definitely had a short fuse. Had a lot of anger issues there. And fortunately, for some of my enemies now, I don't have those issues, or else I can promise you that about 20 years ago, or even as short as maybe 12 years ago, they would have got a much different response from me. And I may have been in jail. So, I mean, God is good because God has protected me. He knows, God always knows how much you can take, and he won't put any more on you than you can handle. Um, so, once I started to develop some patience, and I also stopped talking about the war and stopped thinking and dwelling and all of these things. So each year as Veterans Day comes up, I come with this thing. Now, my daughter, who's the youngest of our children, my precious, innocent girl, is in the process now of learning things about her dad. And my hope is that she won't read it and think that her father was some sort of a monster, And people don't understand that. It's like that you go in, you serve the military, and those of us that have to really go out there and get busy with the enemy, and in some cases you're challenged and you're forced to take human lives. We live with that forever, and it's not a Call of Duty game. I think I shared some videos with you guys over the weekend, and as I think about it, I'm thinking about talks that I'm going to have with students about what Veterans Day means, and essentially it comes down to, it means preserving our country and our freedom is what it means to me, because everything that I did or was voluntarily served to do, and understand that I wasn't drafted. I was, it was all voluntary, and I continued to serve and continued to stay on point with that. But it was always about freedom and always about our country and honoring our country. So I think as I look at this and I think about the secrets that my kids are starting to figure out about me, my youngest ones anyways, it's ultimately about them understanding the why, not just the what you did, but the why. Why you did what you did and how you lived your life as an example. And I think that it's the most important thing that I can do. It's going to be the biggest challenge of my life, and it really just kind of hit me. Here we are at this point, and my daughter doesn't know a thing about her dad's service. So isn't that odd? Anyways, that's where I'm at. My wife would tell you that she loves me dearly. She obviously does, because if she didn't, she wouldn't have stuck with me through all the hard times. And, it's not all been, great and glorious. I had an opportunity to go to a football game, a professional football game, free tickets now, folks. It's free tickets on Sunday. And, that's my anniversary, with my wife. My wife's like, you can go, you can go. We'll celebrate, or we'll go with you, or whatever. But, there's a church, a small church right up the road here that asked me to speak to a group of kids, maybe a dozen kids. And, I sat down and I really thought about that. I'm like, what is more important, me sitting in a football game and going out on the field and having someone hold your hand up and clap for you, or maybe having a serious impact on one of those 12 kids that I'm going to be talking to on Sunday? So I went out and found a good friend who, and him and his son live in Virginia. So they're going to drive to the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns game on Sunday, and he will be honored, most rightfully so, and deservingly so. And I will be in a small West Virginia church on Sunday celebrating, my our wedding anniversary. Met my wife in church, by the way, about 20 years ago, and we've been married for it'll be 18 years on Sunday. So God is good, and And that's my intro. So thanks for having me on the show.
That is who Captain James McCormick is. I love every part of that. And just for a moment, I want to go into that why, because that why is the most important. You talked about freedom, but when you made the decision that you were willing to risk your life for freedom, and you went and you did it, would you do it again?
Yes, without a doubt. I wouldn't even think twice about doing it again. And as I watch what's going on in the Middle East right now, you know, while I'm not as young as I used to be, I'm going to put a warning out to all those terrorists. Don't be coming up around this area with any of that noise, because I will respond